Today we're going to talk about what's going on in Georgia, USA with Adriana Smith, who at this very moment has been on life support for almost 4 months, even though she has been declared legally brain dead because she's pregnant. And it's not her family choosing this, it's the government choosing it. Before we begin, we post death and dying related videos every Friday, so if that sounds like your kind of thing, consider subscribing to the channel. Now let's talk Adriana Smith's situation. I've been tossing up whether to do a video on this situation for days now. Partly for my own safety, as I'll be visiting the US next year, partly because I'm struggling to keep my cool about the issue, and partly because I don't want my lovely US viewers thinking I'm always coming after their country all the time. Especially considering the video that we were supposed to have up this week, which will be postponed for 2 weeks. When you see it, you'll know what I mean. But unfortunately for you guys, a lot of interesting or crazy death shit seems to come out of your country, including what appears to be an episode of The Handmaid's Tale coming to life. So let's see where this is going, eh? The situation. In February this year, 30-year-old Adriana Smith was declared brain dead due to complications from undiagnosed brain clots. She is not in a coma, she is not in a vegetative state, she is brain dead. She is dead. At that time, back in February, she was 9 weeks pregnant. So why now, in May, 4 months later, is she still on life support? Because the hospital has cited the Life Act, the state's heartbeat law, which prohibits abortion after detection of a fetal heartbeat. Yep, effectively, they have said that removing life support is an action with the purpose to terminate a pregnancy, which in the state of Georgia is illegal. Now, you may have heard of cases where a family of a woman who is heavily pregnant when declared brain dead is kept alive for a few days in order to have the baby by a C-section, again, at the request of the family. That's a few days, a week, not 4 months. But more importantly, that is the family's choice, not the government interfering with bodily autonomy. To quote Andrea's mother, "We didn't have a choice or a say about it. We want the baby, that's a part of my daughter, but the decision should have been left to us, not the state." And that is the concerning part here. Now, we're going to look at some individual parts of this puzzle and then bring it all together at the end, so follow me. What is brain death? Many years ago, we did a video about what brain death is and what it isn't, but since it's been a while, let's review. Brain death is a medical and legal term for death that happens when your brain stops working. It only accounts for less than 2% of deaths. In brain death, injury or illness does severe permanent damage to your entire brain and brainstem. Your brainstem manages your breathing and heart rate. Your brain manages senses like sight, sound, touch, and abilities like motor movement. There is no coming back from it. You are dead. Doctors have many tests and criteria that they need to follow to assess and confirm brain death. Signs of brain death include the pupils don't respond to light. The person shows no reaction to pain. The eyes don't blink when the eye surface is touched. The eyes don't move when the head is moved. The eyes don't move when ice water is poured into the ear. There is no gagging reflex when the back of the throat is touched. The person doesn't breathe when the ventilator is switched off. An ECG test shows no brain activity at all. To be clear, brain death is not a coma. A coma is similar to deep sleep, except that no amount of external stimuli can prompt the brain to become awake and alert. However, the person is alive and recovery is possible. Brain death is also often confused with a persistent vegetative state, but these conditions are not the same either. A persistent vegetative state means the person has lost higher brain functions, but their undamaged brain stem still allows for essential functions like heart rate and breathing to continue. A person in a vegetative state is alive and may recover to some degree given time. Brain death means the person is dead. What does life support look like in this situation? Now, because your brain is dead, it's not able to make you breathe, make your heart beat, swallow, regulate temperature, or anything. So in come the machines. First up, the lungs and heart both need to be kept moving, which requires specialist machinery. ECMO is a type of artificial life support that can help a person whose lungs and heart aren't functioning correctly. This process continuously pumps blood out of your body, sends it through a series of devices that adds oxygen and removes carbon dioxide. The machine then pumps your blood back into your body. This may or may not be used with the mechanical ventilator depending on the specific type of machine. Up next is artificial nutrition and hydration, replacing ordinary eating and drinking. In the case where someone is brain dead, you can't just give them a feeding tube to supply this because, shocker, their stomach isn't working. So you need parenteral nutrition, which means feeding intravenously through a vein. The longer it is done, the harder it will be to keep these veins from collapsing. Now, with nutrition coming in, it has to go out. So kidney dialysis is used to replace the function of non-functioning kidneys. It involves using a special machine to filter harmful waste and excess fluid from your blood. But we're not done yet. The brain regulates hormones, or it did until you were brain dead. Now you will require injections and medication to reduce hormone imbalances, which can lead to loss of temperature regulation, electrolyte imbalances, blood sugar instability, hypothyroidism, and adrenal insufficiency. And guess what? Because there's also now a baby on board who requires a cocktail of hormones to grow, they have to supplement that as well. Also, infection is a massive risk because you now have no immune system because, you're dead. So they need to add those things as well. It's a very natural, hands-off process. And there is so much more. You could do an entire documentary on just the things that are required for life support in this situation. But that's just the basics. But it's all worth it if a healthy, bouncing baby is born, right? After birth. Pregnancy may be a natural process, but what is happening to Adriana's pregnancy is anything but natural. Every intervention has risk for the baby, but the biggest one by far is the hormonal imbalances. We know a lot about the body. We have created ways to artificially create or replicate many things, including hormones. But we have not done it as well or as completely as the human body can. Thus, this baby is going through a roller coaster of hormones that would usually be regulated by the mother's body, but instead now has to rely on external factors. Normal pregnancy involves dynamic shifts in hormone levels based on feedback loop between the brain, placenta, and fetus. In brain death, the body's feedback system is non-existent. Doctors must guess and monitor hormone levels without real-time physiological guidance. Even small prolonged deviations in hormone levels, especially in earlier and mid-pregnancy, can lead to irreversible damage, particularly in rapidly developing systems like the fetal brain, lungs, and heart. After 6 months of this, the likelihood of that child being born even remotely healthy is slim to none. The family have already said that the fetus is experiencing complications. And this leads me to another question. Andrea's parents, by the sounds of it, were looking forward to being grandparents. A relationship where you see your grandchild once a week and have fun times. They probably weren't wanting to become parents to a newborn in their retirement age. That's a lot of work. Then add on that this child will likely require round-the-clock care, not just while they're a newborn, but for life. I would imagine they will have lifelong guilt about their daughter being used as an incubator and resentment at the government for their current situation. And do we really think the government is going to help with that disabled child? The other question is, who's paying for this? The US ended up in 43rd place for end-of-life care for a reason in that video we did a while back. And one of the biggest reasons was because many people go into massive medical debt when their loved one needs end-of-life care. The government is keeping this woman's body in hospital for 6 months, plus the hospital care that the child will need after it's born, assuming that it's born alive. Since it was the government's choice, are they going to pay for it? I doubt it. Michelle Oberman, lawyer and legal scholar at Santa Clara University School of Law, said the costs of keeping Smith on life support and caring for her fetus if it survives delivery will cost upwards of $800,000, close to $1 million. And US health insurance does not generally cover the cost of death if a patient is declared to be in a vegetative state with no potential for recovery, let alone this situation. So now the family is caring for an infant with significant medical needs, plus paying off a debt that they will likely never be able to pay off. What kind of life is there going to be for this child? We all know the answer to that, and we all know the Georgian government doesn't care. Speaking of government, meet Ed. Leonard Edwin Setzler is a 55-year-old Republican state senator in Georgia. Old Eddie here is best known for sponsoring Georgia's 2019 heartbeat abortion law, which bans most abortions once fetal cardiac activity is detected, typically around 6 weeks into pregnancy. He has been a prominent figure in shaping Georgia's reproductive health policies. He's also the same beady-eyed bellend that helped keep assisted suicide a felony in the state. Gee, what do you know? I guess that professionalism just went straight out the window. Yeah, well. When asked to comment on Andrea and her family's situation, he commented, "I think it's completely appropriate that the hospital do what they can to save the life of the child." He later said, "I'm thankful the hospital recognises the full value of a small human life living inside this regrettably dying mother." Notice how he said dying, not dead, which she is. And no condolences to the family either. Seems like a lovely man. Attorney General statement. Democratic State Senator Parks wrote a letter to Georgia's Republican Attorney General Chris Carr asking for clarity about how Georgia's abortion law should be applied in this context. The law, known as the Life Act, was narrowly passed and signed into law by Governor Brian Kemp in 2019, but was not enforced until the US Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade in 2022. Carr's office responded in a statement. There is nothing in the Life Act that requires medical professionals to keep a woman on life support after brain death. Removing life support is not an action with the purpose to terminate a pregnancy. Emory Healthcare seems to have come to a different conclusion. The hospital has not addressed the Attorney General's legal opinion and has not responded to repeated requests for comment, with the exception of one statement to very select outlets. It reads, Emory Healthcare uses consensus from clinical experts, medical literature, and legal guidance to support our providers as they make individualized treatment recommendations in compliance with Georgia's abortion laws and all other applicable laws. Our top priorities continue to be the safety and well-being of the patients we serve. This made me question this hospital, so let's just take a look at that. Emory Healthcare. Over here, we recently had a case where a woman could not access VAD because the hospital she was at was a Catholic hospital. Now, it's obviously not the same as this, but it did get me thinking. Was the hospital that Adriana is at a religious-based one, and is that why they were leaning so heavily on these supposed laws and not paying attention to the Attorney General? So I looked into it. Adriana is at Emory University Hospital, which is one of many that are part of Emory Healthcare and linked to Emory University. With regards to religion, its website states, Emory Healthcare provides spiritual health services that include traditional religious care, but it is not exclusively a religious-based organisation. It embraces a broader approach to health that includes emotional and spiritual needs for all individuals, regardless of their religious background. Our spiritual health team includes 55 full-time staff, 52 part-time staff who serve across the Emory healthcare system 24/7. We are here to respond, lean on us. Okay, fair enough. They don't want to say outright that they're affiliated with a particular religion. That would be bad for business, I get it. But the truth is, Emory has a long-lasting affiliation with United Methodist. The Methodist trustee who wrote the university bylaws in 1915 says that Emory was founded for the promotion of the broadest intellectual culture in harmony with the democratic institutions of our country and permeated by the principles and influences of the Christian religion. It is designed to be a profoundly religious institution without being narrowly sectarian. It proposes to encourage freedom of thought as liberal as the limitations of truth. Interesting. Indeed, Methodism launched scores of colleges in the United States out of faith that education would improve the soul as well as the mind. Now, I know what you're going to say. That was back in 1915. They've probably changed by now. Still, the Chandler School of Theology, the world's largest United Methodist seminary, the groundbreaking Center for the Study of Law and Religion, the pioneering efforts like the Interfaith Health Program in the Rollins School of Public Health, and the Journeys of Reconciliation sponsored by the Office of Spiritual and Religious Life go a long way towards that blend of academic learning and faith imagined by Emory's founders. So interpret that as you wish. My other questions regarding this particular hospital's choices has to do with the fact that Adriana worked for that very hospital before her death. She was a nurse at Emory University Hospital, the one that she's now lying in. Now, I couldn't find out which nursing speciality she worked in or whether she had interactions with hospital leadership or the staff that are caring for her fetus now, but it does make you curious. In the same way that her being a black woman in a country and a state that is, well, as it is, also makes me curious. If this was a brain-dead white woman, would it be happening? We know race and medical research kind of go hand in hand historically in the US. My thoughts. Now you may say, Sam, she's brain dead. She's not feeling anything or thinking anything, so why does it matter? Remember that critical thinking that I'm always going on about? How you need to critically analyze the evidence that's put in front of you, not just take things at face value, maybe look at the bigger picture. Because aside from the fact that this baby is unlikely to be born in any way healthy, aside from the fact that the government has stripped this woman of her dignity and are keeping her as a human incubator, aside from the fact that the family now has significant trauma from not only losing their daughter, but having to watch this play out and not being allowed to lay her to rest, aside from all that, where do you think these dots are going to lead? I thought freedom was a big thing in your country, which we know is a lie, but that's what you always say. I thought personal autonomy was a big thing in your country. Apparently not. Join the dots. Cultural shifts don't come in waves, they come in ripples, one after another, so you don't notice. And if you're a woman looking at this and thinking it's okay, do you truly believe that if you go along with everything that they say, they won't come after you if you step out line later on? Do you truly think you're special? Adriana could easily be you. The state government of Georgia want to keep Adriana on life support until August. With the baby already showing severe signs of distress and developmental complications, there are concerns as to whether it will even be born alive. I don't really know what to say to end this, but rest in peace to Adriana. Now, go talk death.